And a very good afternoon to you, our listeners on Gold FM and viewers on the Fiji Broadcasting Corporation's, FBC TV. I'm Peveli Rotibuna, sitting in for Jackie Spate this afternoon on Speak Your Mind. Welcome to the show. And, this this afternoon, we're going to be talking a little bit one of my favorite dishes. I say dish because this is something that affects a lot of us here in the country and also in the Pacific and I'm sure the entire world. Fish, don't you love it? I love it fried. I love it in meaty. I love it boiled sometimes, not all the time. But something else that we love about fish, it's the different specialities. And here in the Pacific and in Fiji, and especially where I'm from, we're very particular about what type of fish. Don't you love kawakawa or don't you love ndonu? Well, this month, in fact, for the last few months, we've been asking the organization, FBC, have joined in the campaign of FJ, or for FJ. Now, for FJ, or for short, or for Fiji, I'm being joined by a beautiful young lady who will tell us a little bit about herself very shortly. So I'll welcome her now. Welcome to the show, Alumedi Nakeke.
Thank you, Peveli.
Now, tell us a little bit about 4FJ and your role, okay, and also what is behind it.
Thank you. 4J is shortened for Fiji because this campaign, we're doing this campaign for Fiji. And that's why we call the campaign for Fiji. And also on our logo, it says a movement to protect our way of life. So we're doing this because we want to protect our way of life.
Now, Alubiti, you are also with the CWEB. You're a program associate with CWEB, yeah?
Yes.
Now, this is also part, it's the movement in itself. It's more than just one group of people. There's a whole lot of you, including the ambassadors. Is that right?
That's right.
And how much of this, well, in particular, Donu and Kawakawa are being targeted for this 4FJ movement, at least for this campaign, yeah? And a lot of ambassadors, a lot of talk has been put behind it. What's CWEB's role?
CWEB is a communications organization. And for this campaign, CWEB created the campaign and working with fisheries and other partners, which includes WWF, WCS, Wildlife Conservation, and other organizations, NGOs, and the Itokiafes, who are members of the Fiji Locally Marine Managed Area Network.
Ah, okay. So it involves a whole lot more than just one particular organization. So people always, sometimes perceive it incorrectly that it is just one campaign. In fact, members of various different specialities in the work of marine conservation.
That's right.
And how many years have you been with CWEB?
Going on 6 years.
6 years now. Now, Alumedi, you've also been involved a lot in print media, so your role also has been to just communicate this with various other organizations and individuals. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, tell us a little bit more also on the importance. How important is this particular campaign for you?
Oh, for me, because I grew up in a village before coming to SOA, so I know how it is in the village. We love this fish, and the fish is part of our menu every day. So if we, like when I'm in Suva, if I don't eat fish, I feel I'm out of place because...
Can I ask which village from Fiji are you from?
Natewa.
Oh, no wonder. So it's fish, yeah, affecting a lot. Has there been a lot of programs, I'm sure, that have also communication with various villages, especially villages in the rural division and also in Vonolevu, from where you're from also where you hail from? I'm sure there's been a lot of programs. And has CWEB also been involved with this, along with 4FJ?
Yes, we've also worked in Boa, in the various districts in Boa, and we've also been working with other communities in Fiji, where the Fiji Locally Marine Management managed areas are working.
Okay, how is CWEB's work with their partners in promoting this campaign?
For this campaign, we're taking the lead in this campaign. By that I mean we're almost doing everything, but then the other partners, because they have science experts with them, So they are the ones helping us, and it's not only us, but we have other communications officers as well who are also partnering with us, and fisheries.
So for Fiji, or this movement
Mhm.
is actually in part, just a small part also. Well, I'd say it's small because it involves a whole lot more work and programs that your organization also involve yourself in. This is part of what you do all the time. Yes, in your work in marine conservation. Is that
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Now, what are some of the aspects of for CWeb? What other types in particular? What kind of programs did you run? Do you run?
We also run a community educators uh, training program in which we bring in community leaders and educate them, empower them on communication skills so that they can go back to their villages. Because one of the problems that we have seen is that when they go back, after coming to workshops
Uh-huh.
with our partners, when they go back, they don't really take the message home. Sometimes there's some problems of communications,
Uh-huh.
and creates some problems in the villages. So what we try to do with them is we educate them
Uh-huh.
on the communication skill, how to present, and also we use a message box. How do you the what, the when, all those questions, the why, so that they could be answered. And when they take it back, they have, you know, a whole message that's a holistic,
A more
yeah,
holistic
holistic, yeah.
message for. Well, how do you feel that with development and with, of course, information technology, does it help having all these various means of communications, yet we still have rural communities that may not have it available to them? Yeah? Is it still very important to meet one on one with our people, the fellow Fijians everywhere?
Yes, it
Very
is.
important,
Mm-hmm.
especially with radio programs like this.
Radio programs are very good because of their coverage.
Mhm.
So when we ask them what is the best means of
Communication,
communications, and they said the radio.
the radio.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that they did say that because I can still say that I have a job in radio. But back to what we were talking about. Why Donu and Kawakawa specifically for this period?
Thank you. Cocoa and dono are an important source of food and income for our communities in Fiji. And also because these fish are also culturally important to the cultures of Fiji. But over the years, we have seen the populations of Kaukaua and Donu declining.
Mm.
And also because our populations have grown over the years and also our income needs. So there has been, this fish has been vulnerable to overfishing. And one of the reasons why they are vulnerable to they why they are vulnerable is because they gather predictably every year in the same spots and also at the same time to breed. So by fishing those spots, you can very quickly overfish them.
Well, we'll touch more on this right after this short break. Welcome back to Gold FM's Speak Your Mind live at this time. You can also call up with your questions with regards to the issue that we're talking about, the movement for FJ or for Fiji, now a movement on marine conservation. And with us, joining us this afternoon, are experts in the field. And should you have questions with regards to why you should not be eating donu or even enjoying a dinner of kawakawa, then this is the question, and you also have to pose, and also how best you can involve yourself in the topic that we're talking about. And joining us in studio now already with the presence of Alumedi Nakeke, but now joined by Amelia Pei of the Fiji Locally Managed Marine Area. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pedeli.
All right, just remember to turn on your microphone there. But let's talk about 4FJ. But first of all, Amelia, I'm going to ask if where are you from?
Um, that's a very good question.
Very good question.
Um, um, I'm with the Fiji Locally Managed Marine Area Network, commonly known as FLEMA. To talk a little bit more on what we do, we mostly work with the coastal communities throughout Fiji. As you know, 12 out of the 14 provinces in Fiji, most of them are coastal provinces. So what we do with these communities is basically capacity building, helping communities to understand more of what the coastal community provides and the environment, and how the community can play a vital role in sustainably managing their natural resources, particularly their coastal resources, not only for them but also for the future generation to come.
No, it's interesting that when we talk about conservation and talking about environmental issues, the word sustainable rings true with all of our respondents and also with many. But many of our listeners also wish a definition of sustainability, that we can break it down for them, and especially when we go out to rural areas, when we do our broadcasts from them, and they ask us, like, how do we keep, and I'm sure you receive this from where you take your work to, that is a very important aspect of having to conserve, is having a sustainable environment. Yes, and not many people understand that it's simple steps. Yes, and the work that you all do and various organizations, I'm sure, like the Fiji Locally Managed Marine Area Network. Now, Amelia, you say that you also take your work out to the rural areas. Now, what has been the response like in terms of this kind of programs and having to try and administer it?
FLEMA has been in existence for over a decade now, Pedeli. And so far, I could say so good. But also over the years, we still have challenges in terms of funding, as most of us are non-government organizations, so we rely entirely on the fundings, on donor fundings that we receive to successfully implement our work on the ground with the communities that we work with. Mm-hmm. And given the progress that we've made in terms of coverage of the work that we do with the communities, we're also being challenged in terms of the funds.
That's right.
But from the responses that we've received from the communities, most of them have captured the ideas, the things that we've been trying to advocate in terms of resource conservation and management, and just to continue the work that we do. More, I think, from our end, more awareness and just the continuation of the work that we've been doing, and maybe a little bit step up from what from where we're at the moment, to ensure that this community continues the work that we've done over the 10 years and beyond.
Now, let's talk about the Kawakawa and Donu. How well has this been received with your network and with from the grassroots level also?
FLEMA comes in more of as a supporting role to what CWEB is doing. FLEMA is sort of an umbrella organizations whereby we have CWEB, WCS, WWF, the Department of Fisheries. Okay. They all come under the FLEMA network. So like I've just mentioned, we come in more as a supporting role and just trying to just communicate what CWEB is already communicating to the communities that we work in, to take on this campaign and try to stop the harvesting kawakawa and harvest and the eating of kawa and donu from the month of June to September. Just so we give them time to spawn, and then we can fish them later on.
Well, we talked a little bit just before we head into the break with regards to the aims and why these period. Now, what I'd like to ask, just because CWeb and FEMA work the way that you do you find is there any challenges that you find working as various networks of different organizations or different departments from various arms of government? Is there any challenges that you find trying to work together? Do you sometimes, is there a flooding of information perhaps for our Fijians, or is that something that can be managed? I'm posing a question to either of you. You could answer.
I think some of the issues maybe I could say is, we different partner organizations, we have our different works that are different communities that we work with. Mm-hmm. We have our own informations of the work that we do. I think it's just a matter of consolidating all those informations in one area and just ensuring that when we go out as a group rather than individuals going in to do, work on its own.
Yeah, with the awareness programs. Yeah. All right. Now, Almedi, I'm just going to throw back to you. So what in particular with CWeb, your role, is it that, what other types of awareness programs that you're helping to raise or to work in terms of the 4Fiji movement?
Thank you. When we go out to the communities, we also help them with the issues that they're facing, because for us as a communications organization, we try and simplify things, especially with all the scientific jargons, because most of them don't know what it is,
yes,
and it's also hard for them to understand. So we just try and simplify them so that they can, because most of the people who come to the workshops represent their villages, and they have to take the message back to their villages. So what we try to do is, make it simple and easy for them so that they can understand. Unless they understand it, that they can take the message back, and the ones in the village could understand it as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Olumide. And on that note, we'll take another short break right here on Gold FM, Speak Your Mind. Welcome back to Gold FM, Speak Your Mind, and feel free to also call us in studio, 3220-906 and 3220-907. You can also send us your questions on goldfm@fbc.com.fj. We are speaking with experts from the movement 4Fiji, or 4FJ, and we're talking of a critical issue that our country faces, the depletion of two types of fish, ones that I love to have, kawa and donu. And joining us on the show now is Miss Margaret Fox from the group WCS, or from the organization WCS. Now I'm going to ask Margaret, who is a conservationist, to tell us a little bit more about her work and her organization.
Thank you. The WCS stands for the Wildlife Conservation Society, and I work for the Fiji Program Office. As a conservationist, my work covers a broad range of things, from undertaking biological monitoring in the sea and surveying the oceans and the reefs, and also conducting socio-economic surveys on the ground to see how people actually live their life and use their natural resources. We also do I've done a bit of forestry surveys as well, because of the reach to reef approach, and how the land actually, what happens on land actually affects what happens out in the ocean. And also market surveys, just looking at what types of fish are out there that people are paying and buying and getting.
Well, it's interesting. Yours is a whole lot more. Your job seems to be a lot more, I'd say, holistic approach to the work that you, and especially with the issue that we are focusing on today. And I'm going to have to ask, how are we doing? Already 3 months with Donu in specific, 4FJ's primary campaign at this time is focusing on the population of Donu and Kalkaua. And how has it been? What has the response been like? And especially with, has the amount of Kalkaua and Donu being sold in our markets in Fiji, has this campaign made any impact, do you think? Or is it too early?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. That's very interesting. Just looking at timelines for me personally, I really cannot say much about it. But I have gone out to the markets just last week,
Yes.
and I do feel that there has been an impact to
Okay.
some level because the middlemen do recognize us, and they're like, "Oh, are you here because of that?" And
So you actually posed the question to them too?
no, I
Oh.
just wanted to take photos and look at the
Uh.
kawa and see what types were out there on the market. And they did recognize the fact that they were actually reproducing it this season. And that's what they
Okay.
were saying, that there have been people coming up and saying they're not buying it because of that.
Well, that's very interesting, and kudos to the movement for that type of impact. Because I can say this time last year, that wouldn't have been a conversation I could have had at the market. I'm being very, very honest because yes, I've also felt with our listeners and the response that we've had with the amount of information that the movement for FJ has put out, and I guess the work that all of you have been doing, the response with the public, it has resonated in terms of how people speak also, how they speak of conservation of the environment. It's not only about putting rubbish away, but it also looks at the way we behave as a community. And your particular work, you've mentioned that you also look at the impact of what we do in terms of everything, in terms of how we behave even in the cities, and that involves. Do you feel that the information? I've posed this question already, but do you feel that sometimes we flood information like campaigns such as this with our public, with our fellow Fijians, and sometimes may, is there anything? Do you believe in anything such as over information?
To some level, there have been evidence of certain campaigns being overwhelming the public, but I believe with this 4FJ movement, we're still scratching the surface.
Just the surface, yeah. Now, how important do you feel that taking this campaign online, there's been a massive online campaign with, I believe, over 2,000 or 3,000 people now putting likes on your Facebook page for FJ, and the impact it has had, especially with our youngsters, with especially young school children, who hopefully go home and talk about it. And how do you think this has fared? I'm posing the question to either of you.
In terms of rural areas, I think in terms of coverage, it's been really good, because the reason why I said that, I was on the Fijian show last week, and straight after that, I walked out of the studio. I received a few phone calls from the communities in Kantabu, in the Sawas, in Vanuatu, just saying that they were listening to the Fijian program. So I think in terms of coverage through the radio, it's been good, and also within Suva, in areas where we have access to internet, the coverage through Facebook has been encouraging as well.
As a conservationist out in the rural areas, how do you feel messages such as this have fared with our Fijians?
In what terms would you?
I would say in terms of having to talk about, say for instance, this, preserving, having people to stop from fishing at this time. Because traditionally, local communities have tambus instead, especially around the times when fish spawn. Now, how effective do you think we have been as information distributors?
It depends on the communities that you go to, really, because in some communities that we've been to, they actually do not recognize that they have aggregations because they've actually fished them out. Or there's no historical record of it, because the first way we actually determine that is really by asking people, old fishermen, people that go out a lot to the sea, if they've seen that, if they've seen aggregates of it, because not everywhere has aggregations actually.
Oh.
But for those that have them and they've recognized that they've depleted them, they actually believe, and these are coming from the communities themselves, that they need to actually look after it if they want to keep fishing them in future.
Well, that's a great sign. We'll talk a little bit more about this when we come back right here on Gold FM Speak Your Mind. Feel free to also send us your questions or comments on goldfm@fbc.com.fj. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind, Gold FM Speak Your Mind, and also aired on FBC TV recorded for FBC TV. You can also send us your questions on goldfm@fbc.com.fj or call us up in studio on 3220-906 and 3220-907. We're speaking about the 4FJ campaign, or 4Fiji, a movement of various scientists, conservationists, and organizations involved in marine conservation, and also have involved various individuals. And here at FBC, we've also involved our radio personalities in promoting the campaign to not eat or, enjoy kaukau and donu, such as myself, during the periods when they spawn. And we're joined in studio with me as a conservationist from WCF, Margaret Fox, and also joined by Amelia Pei from the Fiji Locally Managed Marine Area Network. Ladies, just before we headed into the break, we were talking about, to you, Margaret, with regards to communities and some that do not even know about, we're talking about aggregation and also especially on fish population. Now, these communities, are these traditional Tokay communities that you generally find this problem with?
Yes. And these are coastal communities that rely a lot on fishing. And these are some of the heavily fished areas around Fiji.
Now, do you find, is there other departments, government departments or other partners that you work with that perhaps are assisting with these communities in terms of looking at the population of fish?
Yes, the Fisheries Department is also involved in these surveys.
Now, how is it? Do we still have, with this particular campaign, and with other populations of other marine life, is there a continuous program that your particular organization or as the movement 4FJ are looking at in terms of having a more sustainable population for these marine life?
There are programs in place. There are different project partners, and we have the Fiji Locally Managed Marine Areas Network that coordinates or orchestrates all these different partnerships around Fiji, and there is a whole host of members. And in the different project sites that we work in, we actually work with communities to help them sustainably manage their natural marine, not just marine, but just their natural resources for the sustainability of their livelihood.
Now, for this time, 4FJ has chosen, because of the spawning period of Donu and Kaukau, are you looking at 4FJ taking on other projects in terms of the campaign? Is there other campaigns that is also going to continue with this movement?
I cannot say anything for sure for that.
Amelia, would you be able to answer that question, or we'll probably check with Alumedi on the latter segment of this show. Okay, let's go on to in terms of response, working as partners. How has that been with this particular campaign? I'll ask you, Amelia. I'll ask the question again with in terms of working together with the partners in this particular campaign. What has that been like? What has the response been like for FJ?
I can say so far so good. We've been coordinating very well with CWeb. What we do is we we get these awareness materials from CWeb before we go out to our sites or to our communities, to go and just communicate to them the importance of having to pledge just for 4 months not to eat or buy or even sell kawa. And especially to the communities that we work in that have known sites, that have reported sites of spawning aggregations.
What would you say would be the practice now if they are not to fish, if they are not to sell kawa and donu? What is the alternative for our fishermen?
Thank you. That's a good question. It's a challenging question. I've actually spoken to fishermen, and some of them say there's also other fish out there in the ocean that they can fish. And if they just do not fish for the donu and kawa during this season, it also gives them the time to actually fish them more in the other seasons that they pledge to fish in, like the open ones. One of the reasons is because if they fish them now and there's so much of them, there's none for them to fish. Like the numbers decline.
That's right.
And they don't get much sales out of it.
What is their response when you try and explain that? What has it been like for you?
To my surprise, they have been quite positive. I didn't expect that. Not everyone, but yeah, most of them.
Now, with this is with our fishermen here. Have you tried with our? What about our rural communities?
No, that's I'm speaking with the rural communities. Fishermen.
Has there been any evidence from or any information from our more urban centers? I would say our middlemen and also the fishermen that sell in our markets. Has there been any evidence gathered with the type of response that they've from them at least?
Not really for me, but from just walking around and looking at the market, what I actually notice is that they're not very responsive towards the campaign because they need. I think it's the economics of it.
Okay. Now, what would you say to consumers? I think really now we have to target the consumers, because if you can say that it is consumers that sometimes determine the market, yeah. And what would you say to consumers? Encourage them more about not choosing to eat these particular fish?
Well, to the consumers out there who love eating this fish, I love it too. So it's hard to say no. And just standing at the markets and not being able to buy them is really tough. But the thing is that it's a decision that you have to make. Do you want it later on? Like you have the option not to eat it for these few months and have it in future. It's a sustainability issue, or do you want to keep eating them now and then in the next 10 years there's nothing else to eat?
Now, a lot of the awareness programs that we've put out have also been targeting, and a lot of the work that you do are targeting the actual fishermen and also working with the various communities. Now, are there any work towards consumers like me and any awareness programs that will push more towards those who determine the market of eating fish? Is that an approach that the various for FJ is looking at?
Yes, it is.
It's this campaign?
Yes, that's why we're here. So hopefully the consumers are watching and listening in as well.
All right, on that note, we'll take another short break right here on Gold FM. Speak Your Mind. Welcome back to Gold FM Speak Your Mind, and we continue our discussion with regards to the movement for Fiji, for FJ. Now, this particular group that are looking at the conservation at this particular time of the population of donu and kawa in our country. Now, just before the break, we were speaking with conservationist Margaret Fox from WCS, and now we're being joined once again by Alumedi Nakeke, who's going to talk. Well, let's talk about CWeb's role in 4FJ. We'll continue with this because you take the lead in this particular campaign, 4FJ. Now, Alumedi, now let's talk about responses. Responses, we've touched a little bit on this with regards to the campaign. let's talk about what has it been like with what you've experienced from our various well, I guess those who are selling the fish. How has that fared, especially in the rural areas?
For those in the rural areas, we've had a very good response from them. Once after we've told them, that this fish breeds during this month, they said, "Oh, okay, we can forgo for the 4 months."
Now it's the urban centres that you pose a little bit more of an obstacle, yes?
That's right.
Especially with, as we had addressed with Margaret, and we were talking about like it's campaigns such as this, Margaret, that we did say that's targeting those, especially those who are sitting around determining the market for this, to change this perspective, especially as ambassadors. And I'd like to say that I've signed up too. And it poses, we were talking about, just a lifestyle change. Yeah. And also having to have this consciously make that choice of not eating it. What has it been like in the urban centers?
For the urban centers, they've also been a very good response from them. We've done a survey in the Suva area, and out of those that had been asked, 95% agreed after learning about the breedings and spawning style of this fish. 95% agreed that they could forego that fish, these two fish, in the 4 months. So
that's quite impressive.
It is.
Because other campaigns, to get response like that, it takes years of trying to get that kind of response, of that percentage. Now, what do you think is the important part for those who are doing or who are supporting this campaign? And what is it now from 4FJ? What's the next move?
Because for this campaign, it's a very easy ask. It's only for the 4 months. So right now we're just trying to raise awareness and see how it goes. Because the rest we'll just leave it to the fisheries department, the government. It's up to them.
After all, it's a working together. Yeah?
Yes.
Now, Margaret, we also I posed this question earlier on to our other partner that was here with us, Amelia Pei from FLMMA. I'm trying to phlegma as the so does NGO speak. Now, we did say that she mentioned that there were some difficulties in terms of response from the feature. In fact, some challenges in working with their partners. What have you seen on the ground from your work as a conservationist, and what do you hope this campaign will determine for our Fijians? How to change, or how best that it will increase the work of conservation here in Fiji?
Thank you for that very interesting question. What I feel is that through this campaign, most of us have actually we've orchestrated ourselves better and come together and actually projected out this message across the nation. And we hope that that the message would resonate across the different boundaries out there and different types of consumers and users and those that fish, that eat fish. Because that's what we're trying. The key message here is about our livelihood and protecting it. And if you can start with these two fish, it's a positive, and it's a very big step forward for us in terms of conservation.
I'm also just trying to get others to involve themselves with this. There is a campaign, and there are ambassadors that are signing up. And in fact, Alumini, you brought along one of these boards. Now, can you just explain what happens with these boards? And it's a fish. What we've got is a fish cutout board, and everyone holds it up for pictures. Yeah. And what does that campaign? What do you hope to achieve from this campaign? What is it about?
Thank you. First of all, they have to pledge. You pledge not to eat, not to buy or sell kakao and donu for the 4 months, June through September. And what we do is take a picture. You sign a pledge form,
Uh-huh.
and then you sign your name on that pledge board. And we'll take a picture of you because we have a website and also Facebook page. And we'll post that on the Facebook page so that everybody sees you. And maybe when you're eating cocoa, hey,
That
I
is,
saw you there.
I guess that is the challenge because quite a few of our personalities, radio and television, have signed up for this. And the experience they've felt that they said that they've constantly checked themselves whenever they see kalakaua even served at particular places where they have no control over the menu. So, once they hold up this board and it's publicly displayed, there's no going back from it. And I'm sure you'd agree, since we all love kalakaua and also love eating these fish. But I guess these are just some of the campaigns that, no, these are some of the fishes that you're specifying at this time because of its spawning period. But what now also for Fiji? Now, is there other campaigns that are going to be, we'll be hearing of soon?
That's just the beginning.
This is just the beginning.
Yes.
Okay. And what other campaigns, in terms of, what other areas are you looking at covering?
Right now we're just
Concentrating
on this.
right? At Hibiscus, I believe there's also, at the Hibiscus Festival, there's also a display booth, yes?
Yes, there is.
Where is it located?
49 Gladstone. It's just opposite the road where they sell barbecue. If you just look straight up, you'll see a building with a bright red roof. Just at the entrance, we have a little tent there.
Okay. We'll also be having 4Fiji volunteers at our Gold FM night on Friday at the FBC stage. Thank you again for joining us. 4Fiji, do pledge and come to Hibiscus. And of course, sign up on their pledge board and do follow through right up until September.
Yes.
Thank you again for joining us on the show, Margaret. Thank you, and thank you, Alumedi.
Thank you.
And that calls it a wrap to our Speak Your Mind right here on Gold FM. Feel free to also send us your comments on goldfm@fbc.com.fj.